Do you believe that Britney was next to Diddy and or Jeffrey
Absolutely.
Epstein?
Absolutely.
Cassie just name-dropped Britney Spears in the Diddy trial as she was on the stand.
And Diddy inviting heavyweights like Britney to flex his clap.
What might connect pop icon Diddy with music mogul? An unforeseen connection involving Britney Spears turns the trial upside down when it is revealed in court. The enigmatic freak served as proof of their connections, which made the atmosphere in the room intolerable. A party for offs was presented. Why did Diddy react so violently? And what was he concealing?
Do you believe that Britney was next to Diddy and or Jeffrey
Absolutely.
Epstein?
Absolutely. All of those girls, all of those Mickey Mouse girls, including Christina Aguilera, all of these children have been big. Part of the reason why they can't tell you is because they were drugged.
Yep.
Most of what was happening to them was happening. And what they have left are the memories and the nightmares.
Do you believe that Bieber has been trying to expose Diddy for years? Because if you look at his Yummy video, there's a lot of indicators that he was trying to expose what these elites are really doing to children. He used pizza images a lot.
Him, Rihanna, all of them. Listen to their music after they get their big hit record and their deal. That Lou Taylor is friends with Diddy. They're all listed on the charter of that same church.
Over here. Y'all can bring the 500 cameras over here. Y'all can bring it to George Clooney or Tom Cruise or Will Smith.
So you're saying give Britney a break?
Give Britney or any woman or children, you're supposed to have rules to the game. There's supposed to be, there gotta be rules to the game. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And don't put nobody in danger driving, you know? I think that right now, everybody's treating everybody in the world like they can't make a mistake or they have to be this perfect thing. Whether it's Barack Obama, Reverend Wright, whether it's Miley Cyrus or, you know, Britney Spears. Everybody has to be perfect. And life ain't like that.
Cassie just name-dropped Britney Spears in the Diddy trial as she was on the stand testifying. She said, Sean was there and he brought Dallas Austin, Britney Spears. I think those were the two that stand out to me. Now, what she is talking about is her 21st birthday party that took place on September 8th, 2007. The picture is right above. You see Britney with Diddy, Paris Hilton, and then there's Dallas Austin next to her.
It's gonna blow your mind. This is the evolution of Britney Spears from 2000 to 2024. And look what happened in 2003. Who's this guy? Anyone recognize him? And also pay attention to what happens in 2007.
Right now, P. Diddy is looking at spending the rest of his life in prison for human trafficking and also assault towards Cassie Ventura, who was his ex-girlfriend. Cassie Ventura has explained that one way P. Diddy would always try to manipulate her was trying getting other celebrities to come to parties, with one example being Britney Spears, who came to Cassie's 21st birthday party. That birthday party was actually the night before the 2007 VMAs, where Britney Spears had one of the worst performances of her career, and many called it the beginning of the end. And after that happened, Britney Spears actually came out apologizing for the performance, saying she was extremely tired, having no sleep the night before, and did admit to being hungover. Now it's been insinuated that story actually goes much deeper, where P. Diddy might have tried to set Britney Spears up that night, getting her drunk on purpose and keeping her up to try and get her to have a bad performance. From the point of view that P. Diddy had this idea that if Britney Spears' career tanked and she was losing popularity, she would be more reluctant to sign with his record label instead. From Cassie Ventura's point of view, she said that Britney Spears was just a pawn to P. Diddy to try and get her at that birthday party for Cassie, so she'd be so impressed she would date P. Diddy. It actually worked, because that was the first night ever Cassie Ventura did kiss P. Diddy. For Britney Spears, it's not likely she was ever seriously abused by P. Diddy, but it definitely seems like she was a pawn in his plans, and with that, I'm Charles Sproul. Subscribe and learn something.
For years, the Freaks Off party has been the subject of intense controversy. What is it? A bit of an urban legend, this elusive event was rarely discussed in public, but was whispered about at after-parties by Hollywood insiders. There were allegations that the Freaks Off's party was a secretive, high-profile event with a carefully curated attendee list. The invitation to enter was reportedly so exclusive that even influential Hollywood figures whispered about it like a forbidden secret. The alleged location was continuously altered, adding to the events that were purportedly happening inside the party, and its mystique weren't exactly what you'd expect with glitz and glamour. Information on these occurrences was mostly conjectural. Up until this point, they never really made it into the public eye, surviving instead on anonymous insider accusations and gossip blogs. But this trial altered everything. The significance of these meetings in power struggles, alliances, and disputes inside the A-list celebrity world has been shown by evidence submitted in court. These gatherings, according to reports, were venues for behavior that may jeopardize reputations and careers if exposed, rather than just socializing and ostentatious shows of wealth. No one ever definitively labeled what precisely happened, but Sean Diddy Combs was a constant in the stories. let's just say the mystery was enough to keep reporters and the public interested throughout the years. Diddy has long faced accusations of planning and participating in similar events, using his unquestionable charm and power in the entertainment industry is making it seem too plausible. Diddy has the contacts to keep these gatherings secret, and the social pull to pull it off. His role, despite much conjecture, was never verified until the evidence began to mount in this particular trial. According to the prosecution, he was one of the main contributors to the event's beginnings. Britney Spears appeared just when it seemed that this discovery could not get any more significant. It's true that Britney, who was once a symbol of innocence, was suddenly being connected in ways that no one could have anticipated to these events. Her name alone caused a stir in the spectators and only made the proceedings in court seem more serious. Not simply members of the public became agitated. According to legal experts, this trial appears to be proof of how quickly and easily carefully controlled celebrity narratives can be revealed. Once dismissed as a rumor that would always be dismissed as tabloid fiction, the Freaks Off's party has now been the focus of damaging accusations as a result of this trial. What it is another matter entirely how Britney fits into it all. However, unfortunately, the mystery itself is what keeps everyone interested. The accusations made in court were significantly more serious than anything that had ever been discussed behind closed doors, and what was disclosed astounded the attendees. But how does Britney Spears fit into this murky world? Was she actually involved, or is there more to the tale than what is being claimed right now?
Now, instead of showing a photo at the end of 2024, I'm going to show you a video of how she looks now as of a month ago, so stay tuned. But here, the famous Meltdown 2027, I also found her reportedly going to Diddy parties in 2007, and then the whole situation. Coincidence? I don't know. You be the judge. Either way, she's looking pretty good afterwards, as if, she survived Diddy. I have nothing bad to say about Britney Spears. I hope everything's going well for her. I hope she continues to be successful. But at some point soon, it does look like she starts to become a slightly different person. But I'll let you guys be the judge. What do you think? Is it the same person from here to here? And moving forward? Do we have a different Britney? Has she just aged? Is it none of my business? Is it none of all of our business? Either way, stick around, because in 2024, she has made an appearance about a month ago, and you're about to see what that is. I'm gonna get out the way. Here you are.
I forget I'm famous sometimes.
2024.
I'm kind of old, but I thought it was kind of cool. The Sabrina girl, Carpenter, she said something Christian, and I was like, thanks, that's cool. She's very cool. Okay, maybe not.
According to a bombshell report by Shutterscoop, Diddy's been bragging for years about hooking up with Britney that very night. A longtime associate claims Diddy told this story dozens of times, laughing about how Britney was crazy in bed and out of control. He thought it made him look like a player, another notch on his belt. Photos from that night show Britney and Diddy cozying up together. Her eyes are hidden behind sunglasses indoors at night. Just to keep that in mind. Now, she was looking like she could barely hold herself together. In 2007, Britney was 25, a global superstar, but her life was unraveling. She lost custody of her 2 young sons, was battling addiction, and was trapped in a toxic conservatorship that controlled her every move. The media was ruthless, painting her as a fallen idol. Meanwhile, Diddy was at the peak of his power. Bad Boy Records mogul, fashion icon, party king.
The courtroom was filled with questions as the prosecution presented fresh evidence linking Britney Spears to the notorious Freaks Off's party, including how one of the greatest pop singers of all time relates to such a murky world. Everything changed in the room as soon as the judge permitted her name to be mentioned. This discovery raised the ante in a trial that was already full of slanderous allegations. Even seasoned reporters were taken off guard as gasps echoed through the gallery. All eyes were fixed on Diddy, who sat motionless, unintelligible statement as the prosecution presented their case. An encrypted platform purportedly used to plan these elite events yielded texts that served as the evidence. In the courtroom, prosecutors meticulously pieced together a timeline that seemed to show Britney being invited to and attending at least 2 of these VIP gatherings by displaying text messages and email chains. According to one very damning message, a white-hot headliner would be making an unexpected debut. One more message specifically declared Britney the honoree, a claim that got the courtroom buzzing right away. These old emails corresponded to a time in Britney's life when her conservatorship was the subject of intense legal and public attention. The moment a witness testified to confirm the veracity of the messages was maybe the most compelling. In the logs, this person, a former assistant to one of the purported party organizers, found Britney's name and reported seeing her at one of these events. In the witness's account, Britney was motivated by at the venue in a private car, swiftly escorted inside, and avoided other guests for most of the evening. However, the court was impressed by her seeming seclusion and the fact that she was even there at these infamous gatherings. There was more to the prosecution. A picture that was brought into evidence was purportedly taken at one of these events, showing a blonde woman who looked strikingly similar to Britney standing in the background of a dimly lit room. Even if the picture was grainy, the legal team sourced about it, and the witness made it clear that they were who they claimed to be. The timeline further complicated matters. Britney's peak years of control under the conservatorship corresponded with these purported appearances, which begged the question of whether her participation had been completely her choice, or if she had been forced to go. With the growing amount of evidence, Britney's name became indisputable in the trial. Her reputation had been meticulously built for years as a pop sensation or a victim of systemic legal and personal manipulation. Now her name was echoing in a courtroom tied to allegations that could shift public perception again. Was she complicit, or was this yet another chapter in the exploitation of her life? Regardless of the answer, one thing was certain. Her connection to the Freaks Offs party now defined one of the most shocking moments of the trial. And for Diddy, the fallout was just beginning. How did he react as the evidence surfaced in real time?
More pictures from that night. There's Britney. Obviously, that's Cassie and Diddy. More pictures from that night. Britney standing next to Diddy, 50 Cent, Paris. Another one from that night. Britney with Diddy, Cassie. Why is this important? Well, September 8th, 2007 was the night before the MTV Video Music Awards, the 2007 MTV Video Music Awards, where Britney Spears performed her now infamous performance of Gimme More. Now, also why it's important, because Lou Taylor and Robin Greenhill from TriStar Sports and Entertainment allegedly were the ones that orchestrated Britney's conservatorship to begin with, and they have been named in this Diddy lawsuit multiple times. It's a little bit jarring because the Britney fandom has always had questions about that night. These pictures are not new. We've seen these pictures for a long time, but we've always had questions on what went on that night because Britney just didn't seem okay the next day.
It's September 7, 2007, and Las Vegas is buzzing. The Strip's alive with neon lights, thumping music, and A-list celebs are bouncing from club to club. Britney Spears, the pop princess herself, is at Pure Nightclub for Cassie Venture's 21st birthday bash, hosted by none other than Sean Diddy Combs. Paris Hilton's there, music producer Dallas Austin is in the mix, and the VIP section's a chaotic swirl of champagne, flashing cameras, and a lot of narcissistic egos. Anyway, Britney's already under a microscope, fresh off her divorce from Kevin Federline. That head-shaping moment, you guys remember that back then? And the relentless paparazzi stalking her every move. She's trying to claw her way back with a new single, Gimme More. Now, that was set to debut at the MTV VMAs in 2 ways. But that night, tonight, she's partying and the world was not watching.
When Britney Spears' name was called in court, everyone's attention was drawn to Diddy, who sat at the defense table with his body motionless, but his jaw visibly tightened. Up until that moment, he had been remarkably calm. Even as the tone of the trial grew more severe, he seemed confident, with his arms crossed and occasionally talking to his legal team. But as soon as the prosecutors started detailing Britney's purported participation in the Freaks Off party, his face transformed. He leaned forward a little, his hands clenched on the table, his eyes focused on the screen that displayed the proof and messages. Though small, the flicker of discomfort was rather noticeable. The courtroom fell silent as the accusations progressed, barely broken by the subdued gasps of reporters and witnesses and the audible rustle of papers. After showing a string of text messages connecting Britney to invitations to the events, the prosecution turned to a witness statement, a crucial piece of evidence that identified her as a prominent player at one party. At this point, Diddy started to lose his cool. Despite his inability to stand or yell, his eyes shot urgently toward his attorneys, unable to ignore. At one point, he seemed to mouth something, but it was unclear what he said. A short, tense breath came out of him as though he was struggling to keep his composure. The mood in the courtroom only got more intense when a picture purportedly showing Britney at one of the events was displayed. At that point, Diddy revealed his first tantrum in public. He suddenly shifted back in his chair, folding his arms from the table across his chest and turning his head slightly to face the gallery where the onlookers were seated. He didn't say anything out loud, but his body language was... His foot tapped against the floor uneasily, and he appeared to shake his head momentarily in amazement or irritation. It was an uncommon, unplanned event in a carefully planned trial from all sides. The reaction was not limited to the people in the room. Legal experts and pundits grabbed onto Diddy's apparent discomfort right away, interpreting it as a possible turning point. While some conjectured it represented an admission of guilt, others contended it was the response of someone caught off guard by false accusations. Whatever the case, the occasion was not missed. Within hours, headlines were splattered and analyzed by media outlets, his actions questioning whether this was the first instance of his self-assured facade breaking. Clearly foreseeing the consequences, his legal team hurried to reply, arguing that Diddy's response was a result of his annoyance at the court's acceptance of dubious evidence rather than an admission of wrongdoing. His legal counsel member dismissed the Britney disclosures as a last-ditch effort to implicate unrelated people in an off-the-charts remark to reporters during a break. However, their attempts to restore narrative control only served to increase conjecture regarding what was shown by his body language. However, Diddy's behavior after the break was what everyone found most striking. He returned to his seat stiff and somber, hardly acknowledging his surroundings while the trial went on. Whether it was sheer amazement, displeasure, or guilt, something had obviously changed. More importantly, what part did Britney actually play in the murky events surrounding these accusations? Or was this the response of a man taken by surprise?
Now, after they left Pure, they moved to 50 Cent's after party at the Hard Rock Hotel, and the night, it stretched into the early hours of the morning. Insiders say that Britney was glass-eyed, disoriented, clinging to Diddy in a way that raised everyone's eyebrows. Now, fast forward to September 9th, 2007. Britney takes the stage at the VMAs to perform Gimme More. It's supposed to be her big comeback, the moment she proves she's still got it. Instead, it's a train wreck. She stumbles through the choreography, lip syncs off beat, and looks like she's somewhere else entirely. Critics rip her apart, calling it the lowest point of her career. Fans, well, they're left heartbroken. Britney later admits in her 2023 memoir, The Woman in Me, that she hadn't slept that night before, had a panic attack backstage, and felt forced to perform despite begging to back out. She wrote, "I knew it was going to be bad. I was a mess." But what she didn't say, and what's now coming to light, Cassie Ventura, his then girlfriend, was a rising R&B star signed to his label. That Vegas night was her 21st birthday, and Diddy pulled out all the stops, inviting heavyweights like Britney to flex his clout. But here's the problem. Diddy's not looking so untouchable anymore. In September of 2024, as we know, he was arrested on federal charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, transportation for prostitution. He's been in a Brooklyn detention center ever since, pleading not guilty, of course. But the evidence is piling up, okay? We've been covering the case. Cassie's 2023 lawsuit against him, settled out of court for $20 million, accused him of rape, physical abuse, and forcing her into drug-fueled freak-offs, which we know was with all these male escorts from around the country, and she's getting it on while he watches. Her testimony in Diddy's ongoing trial, which, like I said, we've been covering, is where Britney's name first resurfaced.
The mystery that remained after prosecutors presented their evidence was what would bring Britney Spears to these notorious events and how her role fits into the murky universe associated with the Freaks Offs party. The accusations made about Britney's involvement created a picture that made it difficult to distinguish between rumors and scandal. According to the information put forth, Britney was more than simply a name on the guest list. She might have been purposefully brought into these activities under conditions that left more questions than answers. Take note, testimonies uncovered a timeline that dated back to Britney's most turbulent years, when her conservatorship battle was at its height, and every aspect of her life appeared to be micromanaged. In the early 2010s, one witness reported seeing Britney at a freak-off party. She was driven in a black SUV and was led inside, looking withdrawn. According to the witness, Britney's manner didn't seem appropriate given the outrageous nature of these events and the larger-than-life personalities. She brought up a clear query: text messages and email chains that were turned into evidence, some of which mentioned Britney as the main attraction for a guest list composed of entertainment elites, added to the mystery of whether she was an active participant or if her appearance was planned by those in charge of her life at the time. Although it was not apparent how much of it was voluntary and how much was forced, prosecutors contended that these contacts indicated Britney was purposefully invited as the major attraction for these parties. One particular email from 2012 explained she was hesitant to go, but she said that several important people made plans to make sure she was there. This suggestion of coercion complicated the trial and focused attention on her life under guardianship. The claims ran counter to Britney's then carefully manicured public persona. As her admirers knew her, she was a pop music icon who was fighting for her freedom while being held back by a domineering conservatorship. The fresh allegations presented a different image, suggesting possible participation in covert meetings with dubious intentions. Her supporters have, however, been quick to hypothesize that, if accurate, this relationship would have been another result of exploitation. No one could deny the gloomy prospect that the people in charge of her affairs might have tricked her into going to such infamous events. The most startling moment of the courtroom occurred when prosecutors showed a second, more detailed photo of a lady who looked like Britney, avoiding the crowds by staying close to a quiet spot. Even if the picture was not conclusive, its inclusion communicated shockwaves that travel through the gallery and the general public. As fans discussed the accusations, social media erupted. While some were incensed, others wondered if Britney had been inadvertently drawn into something completely beyond her control. Nothing solid regarding Britney's actual involvement has been proven, despite the rumors. Allegations from the Freaks Offs party expose layers of intrigue that raised questions. As the trial goes forward, the defense is anticipated to confront directly. Was she there voluntarily or under duress?
Cassie told the jury that Diddy invited Britney and Dallas Austin, her ex-boyfriend, to her Vegas birthday party, and that the beginning of the relationship was kind of marked publicly with a kiss. Photos from Getty Images confirm Britney was there, posing with Diddy, Cassie, and Austin at Jet nightclub, another spot they hit that night. Now, I'm not sure of the mechanics of how her relationship worked, but Cassie was with Dallas Austin first. He was her producer. Then Diddy met Cassie and signed her, and that's when he made the move to take her away from Dallas Austin. So I don't know if Cassie was still with Dallas at that time, and this is when Diddy made his move, or would Dallas come to her party after Diddy has snatched her away? I don't know how it works, but it's all crazy. But understand, this was the very beginning of Cassie and Diddy's relationship, or close to it. And this is also where allegedly the violence began. Witnesses like Cassie's makeup artist, Mila Morales, who testified, and Diddy's former assistant, George Kaplan, they both testified about seeing Cassie with bruises and injuries allegedly from Diddy's violence. Kaplan even quit working for Diddy because he felt shook by the rapper's actions towards the women in his life. Not only not only seeing just like small things with Cassie, but another woman named Gina. And this also includes a 2015 incident where Diddy was on a private jet to Vegas and started abusing Cassie right there on the plane in front of everyone.
The A's. Diddy's legal team stood up to confront the stunning claims linking Britney to the Freaks Off party. The question that hung over them was if the defense had a compelling explanation for her claimed involvement. Up until this point, the trial had mostly focused on revealing scandalous information, but now it was the defense's turn to refute the prosecution's allegations. They had a definite position when they arrived. According to them, the foundation of Britney's relationship was a combination of public curiosity with her personal issues and circumstantial evidence from untrustworthy witnesses. The defense presented the accusations from the beginning as a last-ditch effort to attract attention. In addition to being a diversion, they contended that linking Britney Spears to these incidents was an effort to make the trial seem more sensational. One defense lawyer told the court during a heated rebuttal that the evidence was weak at best, pausing to highlight what they described as the prosecution's narrative's lack of substance. The defense quickly pointed out contradictions in the witnesses' testimony, casting doubt on their veracity when they claimed to have seen Britney at these events. One important witness in one case claimed to have repeatedly changed their story, which the defense emphasized to call into question their credibility. In order to challenge the legitimacy of the emails and texts that had formed the basis of the prosecution's case, the defense brought in a forensic technology specialist who suggested that they might have been manipulated or taken out of context. Without complete server access, the expert argued, it was difficult to authenticate Britney's direct involvement in the exchanges or even to validate the timestamps. According to the expert, what we have here are fragments, stated bits and pieces that don't make up a complete picture. This technology malfunction raised enough questions for onlookers to question whether the evidence was being falsified or misunderstood. When the defense brought up the photo that purportedly showed Britney at one of these events, it was an especially powerful moment. Their in-house expert testified that the image's graininess rendered it extremely untrustworthy. The expert asserted that it might easily be mistaken for the same image by providing examples of perceptual abnormalities in similar photos. At the conclusion of this, examining one another. Though not everyone agreed with the defense's argument, even some gallery patrons appeared concerned about the photo's ability to stand up as proof. The rejection of the Britney connection was deemed by many to be too and unduly dependent on casting doubt on everything without offering strong proof in opposition. There was a mixed response from the public. Others accused the defense of sidestepping rather than categorically refuting the charges, while others were certain the connection had been disproved. Watchers of the trial made analogies to previous high-profile cases in which legal teams used comparable strategies of overpowering, ambiguity to influence media and court narratives, sometimes with considerable success and other times with less. When the prosecution refuted an expert's assertion on the emails, reminding the court that other sources had confirmed the communications chain of custody, it was a crucial moment. In spite of their aggressive strategy, this cast doubt on several of the defense's points. It was evident that opinions in the courtroom and the general public were still split on whether the defense's pushback was indeed persuasive. Diddy's crew has taken steps to refute the accusations, but the question persisted. Was Britney Spears' involvement in this incident sufficiently removed? There was one thing that was certain. No longer was this trial solely about Diddy. The futures of both Britney and himself were precariously uncertain. There is now more to Sean Diddy Combs' trial than just a court case. It highlights how influence and secrecy are key to the success of celebrity culture. The accusations involving Britney Spears and the Freak-Offs party raised difficult issues regarding accountability and exploitation of power in Hollywood. When Britney was at her most vulnerable, was she manipulated? Years? Or are they overstated connections? The courtroom fallout is still affecting the carefully curated narrative around these celebrities. Tell us what you think about the terrible trial and its findings. What is the truth with Diddy, Britney, and these accusations?